Well, I was going to ask you, now there probably are some Brunel listeners on the podcast, and they might already know about this. But you started the Black Doctoral Researchers Collective at the university, which is amazing. It's amazing for many reasons, and I guess this is sort of like a two-parter. So some of our listeners might not necessarily know about it. So the first question would just be if you could just explain a bit more about what the Black Doctoral Researchers Collective is. And then the second question is, what motivated you to create it? It wasn't something that was already at the university. It was an initiative that you started yourself. So I guess we want to know what it is and why what motivated you to create it. And I guess in sort of linking to that, how does it address, some of the previous points that we've mentioned?
Awesome. All right. So, hey, if any of our Brunel listeners are listening, hello. And any BDRC members, what's good? Yes. So the BDRC for short, but it is the Black Doctoral Researchers Collective. I know that's a bit of a mouthful, so I might just say the BDRC moving forward. So, okay, what it is first, it is a student-led initiative, just as you said, something that I started really to look at ways to empower and engage the Black doctoral researchers that we have at the university. And that's kind of just the shortened version. There wasn't anything like it before. You're absolutely right. So there was, like I say, there's no blueprint. No one left me the manual. I didn't kind of pick this ball up and just said, okay, I'll just take it from here for the final 10 yards. It wasn't like that at all. And I'm really excited about it. But I guess before I even go into kind of some more of the excitement about it, let me tell you why I started it. So when I was doing my master's, so I did my master's at UCL. I did my undergrad at Brunel, did my master's at UCL, very different places. There's a very different sense of community at both places. But it was, again, the same sort of thing, going on to a new space and a new setting and looking at how Black students were treated, how they understood their roles, what it was that they wanted to do, what they had access to, what they didn't have access to, etc. And I purposely chose to do my dissertation, my master's dissertation on the experiences and challenges of Black postdoctoral researchers. But let's say BAME. I'm not a big fan of the term BAME because, again, which I'll explain in a little while, I feel like we're trying to lump everyone together, but we're all very different. And, it's important to acknowledge that. And throughout conducting that research, I learned so much, so much rich information came to me from these Black, Asian minority ethnic postgraduate students who were talking about just their experiences, of feeling isolated. These were some of the key themes that came out. They felt isolated by their peers and supervisors, mainly white peers and supervisors. They felt that anytime they wanted to discuss kind of racialized issues, they were being ignored and it wasn't important. They didn't have access to funding and scholarship opportunities and so much more. And also one of the big, kind of key themes that came out of that was also just the suffering in terms of mentally and emotionally, their lack of well-being, because they felt like they always had to work harder. And, that was kind of like, I think the topic or the heading for my dissertation, you have to work 10 times harder than your peers. And that's always, always stuck with me. And I thought to myself, okay, if I'm going on to do a PhD, how can I change that? What is that going to look like for me? So I looked at Brunel. Was there anything that we had at Brunel? There wasn't anything like that already. And bear in mind, I'm doing my PhD myself. So I had to really think about this. Plus, I'm a mom, I've got a job. How am I going to juggle all of this? But it goes back to some of what I've said very early on. In order for change to happen, we need to make that first step. In order for anything to move, anything to be sustainable, in order for anything to shift, someone has to start a conversation. And I'm not afraid to be that person. I always say that I like to be the one that's being disruptive, for good reason and for a good cause, because it gets people talking, and it starts those important conversations that sometimes people are afraid to have. So I used that research that I conducted myself, along with the plethora of research that's out there that talks about the experiences and challenges of, BAME postgraduate students. And I thought, okay, let me take some of this and think about how I can start some sort of movement or collective that supports and empowers Black doctoral researchers at Brunel. And it kind of just grew out of that, really. It kind of grew out of those experiences that I had through doing my own research, listening to others, meeting people as a first-year doctoral researcher, because it was very different. I had no idea what it was going to be like going into a PhD. You know, I just kind of went in with that same ball of energy I spoke about in the beginning and thought, okay, I'll figure this out. But ultimately, it is a very different space. It's very different from your undergrad and very different from, you know, your postgrad as well. And I felt like if I had some of these feelings, I can imagine other Black doctoral researchers having those same experiences, thoughts, feelings as well. And I wanted to do something to help them. But it really is thinking about a group that's going to be sustainable. And this is something that I've mentioned to the group members that I sent out today. We're now 30 strong, which I'm really, really proud of. You know, it only started in September last year. And, you know, one of the things that I will say sometimes can get me is that I want to do everything here and now. But, you know, it is important to do things properly. It is important to understand that this isn't a race, you know, this is a marathon, and we need to take time with this because I want this to be long lasting. I want there to be a legacy here for not just the doctoral researchers that are in place now, but for the Black doctoral researchers that are coming up behind us, and as we move forward on into our careers and opportunities as well.